I'm Eric Ponce from Firestone Walker Brewing Company in Paso Robles, California. We're here with Craft Beer and Brewing's Tip of the Week. The longer any of these beers age in barrel, you do start getting slightly more oxidative characters, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can complement it, but you just got to be aware of how much of that oxidative flavor that particular beer can handle and what the flavor threshold of the consumer would be. You still want that base beer to be vibrant and to showcase the beer, but the longer the beer sits in barrel, again, wood is a porous substance, so you are going to get more micro-oxidation. So you're going to start getting more raisin flavors, more port-like flavors, prune, dark overripe pitted fruits, and those can be complementary and they can add another layer and complexity to these beers, which is fun. So we do some more cuvee style beers where they're aging in barrel a lot longer than your typical 1 year that we do here at Firestone Walker. So with Parabola, it's always the same base beer. We want people to buy a Parabola and be able to say, hey, this is Parabola. This is what Parabola tastes like. There's always gonna be some slight minor differences on what particular distillery we worked with, the age of that bourbon or whiskey barrel that we brought in. But that blend is traditionally a blend of mainly 1-year-old Parabola, but we do trickle in some 2 to 3-year-old stuff just to kind of add that complexity, add that flavor, add that known flavor that Parabola lovers are kind of buying that beer knowing that they're gonna get. So it is about blending some of the younger stuff with some of the older stuff and at what percentages you're using, and kind of knowing that the younger stuff is a lot more spirit focused. Obviously you're still gonna get the beer itself, but some of the older stuff you're gonna start getting a little more raisin and prune-like characters that is a good thing in the overall blend. Let's give an example of a rough percentage of a Parabola. And again, this does vary, but it's about 85% is Parabola aged in 1-year-old bourbon barrels. We could go up to 15% of Parabola that was aged in bourbon barrels for 2 to even 3 years. And with the barley wine, 95% of the time, the stock of the 1 year, that's where we want to be. We do experiment with aging barley wine in barrels extended periods of time, and we have had some really great results. But for the most part, majority of our barley wine spends 1 year in wood. And when I'm designing, we always have our calendar for the next 2 to 3 years out, knowing that how many releases we want to do a year, how long that beer is going to be spending time in that barrel, and hopefully not get to the point where we have stock of barrel-aged beer that was not used. Funny story though is going through our barrel warehouse, I recently found 12 bourbon barrels of our Eldorado, which is our blonde barley wine that doesn't use any roasted or toasted malts in it. We all hear that one of the main things about designing a beer from the ground up, and I've talked about it, is some roasted and toasted malts, also higher ABV. So I found some Eldorado, which is our blonde barley wine that has spent almost 6 years in barrel. For some reason, I go through my notes and we sample it every year, but it never makes it to the final blend. So when I came across these barrels, I saw the date on them, and the first thing that came to mind, gonna have to dump these barrels down the drain. It's our Eldorado, no roasted malts, been in barrel longer than we've ever barreled anything, 6 years. But of course, I took them to the floor. Right before I was gonna dump them, popped open the bung, got some samples, and it was such a beautiful beer. You definitely taste those oxidative notes. I got a lot more honey, honeysuckle, apricot, honeydew flavors, and I honestly think that's going to be a standalone beer in the future, because it does need to come out of barrel. But I was thoroughly impressed, and it made me think a little bit about my whole thought process of how things age. And one key aspect of why I feel that beer has aged the way it has for 6 years is our temperature controlled room. If it was going through extreme heat and cold, I don't believe it would have held up that amount of time. To learn more about brewing spirit barrel aged beers, click the link below.